Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a potential winter storm for portions of the Great Lakes and portions of the Central Plains, and that'll stretch into portions of the Northeast. We'll be talking about all of the model guidance regarding this storm. We're not going to be having a snowfall forecast in today's video, although most likely by tomorrow's video or maybe the video after, depending on my certainty on the storm, I'll probably have a snowfall forecast out for you guys. Now we're going to be going over what the GFS, the Canadian, and the European model are all showing for this event, and we're going to be showing you what all of them are showing for the track and the total snowfall out of this event. And for those of you who are wondering why it's going to be so warm, it's going to be because of the system that's going to be pulling in warm air to the east, but cold air and very cold air to the west, and eventually all of the eastern United States will go back to a chillier pattern. So just for those of you who are wondering. Now, here's the current National Weather Service page. We have special weather statements in effect for portions of the Northeast and winter weather advisories in effect for portions of the interior Northeast. That's all from a little clipper system that dove down from Ontario and is now bringing some snowfall to that area. So if you do live within that area, tell me if you do see any snowfall, and tell me whether that's sticking to the road, sticking to the grass. That would just be really useful information. Now, we also see some red flag warnings, or a red flag warning for portions of Wyoming there, as well as some winter storm watches in effect for northern New Mexico, and some winter weather advisories in effect for western Montana and northern Idaho, with some air quality alerts in southern Idaho and southeastern Oregon. Now, let's start talking about what the GFS model is showing with this storm. Now, in order to understand what's happening with the storm, we have to break down what's happening at the surface and a couple thousand feet up in the atmosphere. Now, we see a surface low pressure system over Oklahoma, although most of that moisture is actually going to be to the south of there. So this is your first system. Would be your first system right here. And then we have another system out over the Rockies, which would be your second system right here. And both of these are going to merge over a relatively similar area over this region of the Great Lakes. And exactly where they merge is going to be the biggest question. Although I am very, very happy that the models have actually kind of hung on to one idea. They're now agreeing more with what the GFS and the European were showing yesterday, so they're now starting to agree a little bit more, so there's not as much discrepancy within the models. Notice that we do actually have some rather warm air from this high pressure ahead of this system, so it will actually be quite warm ahead of there, but notice again we have another high pressure up to the north that'll be bringing in and supplying some of that colder air. So let's play this out, let's see what the GFS does, and then we'll look at a couple other models. Now, this would be by Friday, early in the afternoon. We're seeing some potential convective activity for portions of the Central Plains and getting into portions of the Mississippi River Valley. As we continue forward, you start to see a thin line of snowfall set up over portions of Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, northernmost Illinois, southernmost Wisconsin, and into parts of Michigan there. That would be for Friday night, and that would be December 11th, so in about 2 days from now. Here to be by Saturday, early in the morning. Here's by the later morning, and that system is pulling slowly to the north, and that rain snow line is going to be right over about the Illinois-Wisconsin border down through southeastern Iowa and into northwestern Missouri. That's kind of your line of rain and snow, and notice also it is going to be quite windy. If you look at those isobars, which are those kind of gray lines on the screen, you can tell that we have a tight pressure gradient. That means that this system is trying to expel energy, and the only way it can figure out how to do that is through the form of wind. So it has a lot of energy to get rid of, and it's doing that in the form of wind. So you might see some potentially whiteout conditions, some semi-whiteout conditions for portions of Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa. It is going to be tough to get to that point, but it's definitely something that you want to keep in mind. And also, if you're just in that rain area, definitely some wind-driven wind-driven rain for those areas further to the south. Now, here to be by Saturday, later in the morning, getting into the early afternoon. We're looking at some heavier snow breaking out through the central and southern Great Lakes, and then that system kind of stalls out over the Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin border area, where you're looking at a fairly tight, wrapped up low pressure system with some snow and some wind to the northwest of the storm, and then that slowly starts to pull away into portions of Canada, and it's moving out to the east by this point. And behind this system, you're actually going to be dealing with a very, very cold pattern that is going to re-solidify some of that colder air, and then we have to deal with some sort of extra system that might move through this area. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we get closer to that event, and then of course that system moves out, and it's pretty much all wrapped up by, I would say, probably by Sunday night, Monday morning time frame. It should be all wrapped up, maybe some lingering scattered showers. Now, here's what the Canadian model is showing for this same storm. And again, here's your low pressure system. We have that down further to the south. We have a secondary system out over the Rockies. So this is, again, your first system. Here's your second system right here. And both of these will move up to the north and east. And they're going to converge somewhere over this region. And exactly where, again, is going to depend on where that main area of snowfall sets up and where that main area of rainfall sets up as well. Now, this will be by Friday morning. Here's by Friday afternoon, and we're looking at some snow popping up for portions of Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, and by this point, the Canadian model actually has a much wider system, so from north to south, this is a bigger system, but also it's showing the system a little bit nudged further to the north than what the GFS model was showing, and you see that snow fairly light to moderate in many locations, so it's not going to be a complete whiteout. You're not going to see conditions where you can barely see in front of you, but it is definitely going to be difficult driving, especially with some of those winds that might be gusting to 25 or 30 miles per hour. So just take caution if you're driving on those roadways. That would be by Friday night. Here would be by Saturday morning, and that snow is still on that western side of the storm. What you realize from the Canadian model is that over areas closer to the Great Lakes, you're not looking at as much snowfall, mainly because the Canadian model is having those winds kind of blow like this over the Great Lakes, which would mean that you're getting some of those warmer lake waters to and those lake temperatures to blow onto the coastal areas of Wisconsin and Illinois, and that would likely warm up your temperatures just a little bit. So that's just kind of the reason why you're not seeing as much rain and snow, or rain or actually snow along that coastal area there. So here to be by Saturday, early afternoon into the evening hours. That system is, again, oriented a little bit further to the north than what the GFS model was showing. And then as we're getting to Sunday morning, Sunday early afternoon, it's really heading out of here and it's back into portions of central Quebec. Now, here's what the European model is showing for the same exact storm. And let's take a zoomed out look at the entire United States. Now, again, here's your second system out over portions of the Rockies. We have our first system out over the southern plains, and these are going to merge, like I was saying before, and we're going to see what the European model actually does with these two storms. So we see some rain and snow mix start to develop along where those two different systems are intersecting. Here would be by Friday night, and then getting into Saturday morning, and this would be the 12th of December, we're looking at some snow popping up for portions of, again, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, and the European model is agreeing a lot more with the GFS in terms of the exact track. Now, this is going to be definitely a matter of miles as to who's seeing the most snowfall. You could go maybe, I would say, 20 miles south of your area, and you might not see any snow. You might go 20 miles north of your area, and you might see maybe 2 or 3 inches. So it's definitely going to be a very, very tight gradient in terms of where that rain sets up and where that snow sets up. Here to be by Saturday morning, and then getting through the day on Saturday evening. By this point, that rain snow line, the European wants to bring that a little bit further south into portions of northern Missouri, southern Iowa, northern Illinois, and then into portions of southern Wisconsin and portions of central and northern Michigan. They're getting into some of that snowfall, and then that system, again, probably by Sunday morning into Sunday early afternoon, is starting to head up into Canada and into the interior northeast, and really the only snow impacts would be for portions of northern New Hampshire and the interior portions of Maine by that point, and then it launches up further to the north. And here is your second system. We're not going to go in depth on this, but just to show you what the European model has, it has a little area of snow set up on that western end, and it brings this system up up the coast, and it would actually bring snow through all this area. So for those of you who like snow and you haven't seen too much snow this season, definitely we're in the probably a fairly good pattern for some snowfall. We have some cold air. We have not too much warm air, actually. The only warm air that's getting generated is from these systems that pull up and then eventually bring in some cold air. So you definitely have a couple opportunities before Christmas at least to get some snowfall if you live within that eastern third of the United States and you already haven't seen snowfall. So definitely don't lose hope yet. We're only about 9 days into December and a lot is still possible, and we're actually in a fairly cold pattern. So definitely if you do like snow, definitely don't lose hope. We're actually in a fairly good pattern if you would like snow. Now here's what the European model is showing for snowfall totals through the next about 5 days. This would be through Monday morning, and we're looking at anywhere in the grays, about a dusting to 2 inches of snowfall, 2 to 6 inches of snowfall in the blues, 6 to about 10 inches or so in the purples. Now we're looking at probably close to 6 to 10 inches through a narrow band, and again, this is a very narrow corridor of where you're seeing some of that higher snowfall totals, and most of those lighter snowfall totals are going to be to the south, and also as you get further west into Kansas, Nebraska, you're probably going to see some lighter snowfall totals just because of the intensity of the storm won't be as great as when it's over the Great Lakes. Now here's what the GFS is showing, and the biggest difference here would probably be out here in portions of Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and that's because the GFS kind of keeps them separated, the two systems separated a little bit longer. So it brings this one out of Texas and Oklahoma further to the east. It brings this one over Colorado a little bit further to the north. So they only end up really mixing over this area, which would mean areas further to the west over portions of Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska aren't dealing with as much snowfall out of this, and that's definitely going to be something that's probably now our main focus for who's going to be seeing snowfall for that area, because that's definitely one of the areas that has the biggest discrepancy on whether you'll see a lot of snowfall or not so much snowfall. Now here's what the Canadian model is showing for this event as well, and we're looking at a good 2 to 6 inches over many of these areas through Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan. So definitely it is kind of over the same area, but it's not the same exact area. We still do have a couple changes within the models. Some are oriented a little bit more southwest to northeast. Some are oriented a little bit more west to east. So there are still a couple things that we do have to figure out. Now that is going to wrap it up for today's video. If you do enjoy the content, make sure that you are leaving a like on the video. It does help it get out to more people. Also, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another one of my daily uploads. And if you would like a personal forecast, I will be leaving you a comment back. If you comment down in the comment section, I'll leave you a comment back with your own personal forecast. So definitely leave one down below. I'd like to respond within about an hour or two of you posting that. So leave a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.